Well, we continue with our broadcast this morning out and about in Cape Town, really celebrating the 20th birthday of the South African Qualifications Authority, as they will be hosting a series of events this week regarding how is it that we can finalize and align those measures as well as instruments that are prone to qualification to the actual Sustainable Development Goals 2030. So joining us this morning are two individuals that were actually having a seminar yesterday. I'm speaking about the African Qualifications Verification Network, a mouthful, don't worry about it. We'll go into it in just a short while. But really speaking to Mirriam Chiyaba, who is from the Zambian Qualifications Authority, as well as Navin, Vasudev, who is from the South African Qualifications Authority. Thank you so much to the both of you for joining us this morning. And perhaps really the question on everybody's lips, I'm going to start off with you, Navin, is issues around our qualification and the level of our qualification. Does it match with the international levels? Or how are we faring with regards to that? If I've got a degree in South Africa, how am I doing with the degree in America?
Very well.
Yeah.
There's no difference, and we are noticing in our in the research that we are doing and in the work that we are doing that the mobility within the continent is increasing to quite an extent. So there are hubs in various areas, Nairobi, parts of West Africa, Southern Africa, of course, where students are gaining admissions for various courses. So definitely we're doing very well.
Yeah, and of course, when we speak about this African Qualifications Verification Network, it is a mouthful. I know that you guys had the seminar yesterday, but tell us all about that, Mirriam.
Well, the Africa Qualification Verification Network is really a team of African countries, all African countries coming together, building trust on qualifications. As you are aware, there's quite a number of issues surrounding genuine qualifications. So the whole idea is that African countries are coming together and forming a network, a collaboration in which they are agreeing to assist each other with information, to assist everyone else on the continent, employers, parents, confirm the authenticity of qualifications. So this is basically 14 countries that started off. Yesterday we had 11 represented, and we formed a committee that is going to spearhead this work. Yeah. This is work that started about 2 years ago in 2014.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, you're speaking about the 14 countries that are thoroughly involved with it, but many would be wondering how the mechanics of it is going to, how the implementation process thereof, because it's one thing to have the policy and the framework in place, but the implementation then becomes a crucial part. So how do we see this playing out as well as the benefits, Navin?
What's interesting, Vic, is that this is a group of people, it's a community of practice. So we're talking about practitioners of verification, as Mirriam is talking about, towards the genuineness of qualification. So we're not talking just at a higher level. It's important at policy levels, yes. But this is the ground, this is the actual verifications which will lead to genuine qualifications. Yeah. And that's the difference between any other network. This is a network of people who are actually doing the work of verifications. And the other second part is, which is very important, what has happened with the AQVN, it has put verification at the core of what organizations who are undertaking education evaluations, what they do. And that is the success of the AQVN.
I mean, we're speaking about issues around verifications and some of the difficulties being confronted by verifications. Those I would say, okay, if I'm studying in Zambia and I've got an NQF level 8 with regards to their qualification from Zambia, how then does it match up to the level of qualification or the qualification standards of South Africa or any other country on the continent? How do you ensure that there is a sort of a merging of the two?
This is part of the work that the AQVN is doing, is basically looking at the standard that is in Zambia and equivalencing it, basically putting it at the same platform and saying, at level 8 in Zambia, is it sitting at level 8 in South Africa? Yeah. And so when we are developing the standards, we are basically looking at what is in South Africa, what is in Zambia, what is in Kenya, Mauritius, as long as it is in Africa, and beyond Africa. So basically, when you carry a degree, it's a degree everywhere, and it is recognized. The level may be different. Because some countries have got 10 levels, some have 11, but the degree is equivalent to a degree, because we're following similar standards based on conventions. We have the Arusha Convention, and now it's called the Addis Convention, where we are signatories in Africa, and on the continent, we do have other conventions that are recognized, and now there's work on the Global Convention for Recognition of Qualifications. So these are platforms that are assisting us recognize qualifications at the same level in terms of what people are able to do, the competences that various graduates have actually attained at the various levels.
Yeah, but of course, I mean, we're speaking about the quality aspect of it, Mirriam, and it's funny because it's a conversation we were having with the CEO of SAQA regarding issues around the Sustainable Development Goals, speaking to the issues of quality of education now. Now, we're looking at a country, for example, like Zimbabwe. We've got A-levels and O-levels, etc. You've got some African leadership schools in South Africa that host those kinds of levels. At a secondary or at a secondary school level, will that match, or is that qualification equivalent to a higher form of qualification than a child with a senior certificate in South Africa? Navin?
What's interesting, Faith, is the fact that when we are looking at the role of the AQVN, what the AQVN is really wanting to do is to look at the genuineness of a qualification, the genuineness of institutions. That is really important. Comparison is good, but we also need to see the authenticity of institutions, what institutions are offering in terms of programs, qualifications, but also is the award the authentic award. So that is the role that the AQVN is taking on, that this is an important area when you're looking at qualifications and education generally, that the authenticity of institutions, authenticity of programs and qualifications is pertinent.
Yeah.
And that is what will lead to a success either in terms of education or at the workplace.
Well, Mirriam, very quickly, we find that many individuals that are going to study abroad from the African continent, because there's an assumption that they've got a higher quality of education. Are some students coming in from, let's say, Europe or America to come and study in South Africa to obtain qualifications?
Yes. Well, I won't speak much for South Africa because I'm really not in South Africa.
But we can speak for the continent, yes.
For the continent, what we tend to see...
We've adopted you already, don't worry about it. Yeah.
Great to be in South Africa, actually. What is happening is we're seeing that a lot of people are coming into Africa to study because what we are offering in Africa is also of international standard. Because if you look at our graduates, they're going into Europe and obviously competing with the Europeans, with Americans, and vice versa. So we're seeing a number of our graduates who have lived in, in the diaspora, somewhere there, they come back into Africa to study, and they're still at the same level. Yeah. They're not downgraded. They get the same quality education because of the systems that we're putting together. And what the AQVN is basically doing is authenticating and saying that, it doesn't matter where you're getting it. As long as we recognize this qualification, it's as good as in America, in Europe, wherever it is.
Well, thank you so much for the both of you for really joining us this morning. They're speaking to Mirriam Chiyaba as well as Navin Vasudev, looking at obviously the African Qualifications Verification Network. They had their seminar yesterday, and of course the work really stands out for them and waits for them.